So, what if the real secret to thinking smarter isn't about learning more things, but about quitting the bad habits that are already holding you back? That's what we're going to dig into today. How to silence all that mental noise that gets in the way of real clarity by breaking down 7 thinking habits you can just drop for good. I mean, it's a wild question to ask yourself, right? Is your own brain actually working against you? So often we blame outside stuff for our problems. But what if the biggest battles we face are actually the ones happening inside our own heads? So here's the big idea. There are 7 very specific, very common thinking habits that we can all consciously decide to quit. You can almost think of it like a software update for your brain. We're going to ditch these old, buggy habits to upgrade our operating system for some incredible clarity. All right, our first category of noise is, well, it's the most personal one. It's that static that comes from deep inside us, from our ego's desperate need to be right, and from those immediate, unfiltered emotional reactions. And trust me, these forces can seriously cloud your judgment. So in this first section, we're going to tackle 3 big ones: the noise of overconfidence, the chaos of emotional reactions, and that trap of defending our beliefs just for the sake of winning. First up, overconfidence. This is the noise of false certainty. You know that feeling when you are absolutely 100% sure you have the right answer? Well, that feeling, it's a trap. It literally closes our minds to new information, to better ideas, and to crucial feedback that might just lead to a breakthrough. And this slide just perfectly captures the whole shift. A noisy brain slams the door shut and says, "I'm right." But an upgraded brain, it opens a window with one simple but incredibly powerful question. What might I be missing here? That one little question is the perfect antidote to the noise of overconfidence. Okay, next up is the noise from our emotions. And look, we have all been there. That flash of anger, a surge of frustration, or that wave of anxiety that leads to a complete knee-jerk reaction. The thing is, these unfiltered emotions almost always cause us to make poor decisions that, we usually end up regretting later. And here's the upgrade. It's so simple. A noisy brain just reacts instantly. But an upgraded brain, it pauses, just for a breath. That tiny little gap between a feeling and an action, that is where clarity lives. It's the huge difference between an impulsive reaction and a thoughtful response. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a discussion that totally stopped being about finding the truth and just became about winning? That is our third habit, defending beliefs. This is the noise that happens when our ego gets all tangled up with our ideas, and any challenge starts to feel like a personal attack. And here's the crucial difference. A noisy brain argues to win. It turns a conversation into a battle. An upgraded brain discusses to learn. It makes it a collaboration. The goal is no longer to be the winner. The goal is to get to the best possible outcome together. So we've seen how our ego and our emotions can create a ton of noise. But it's not just our internal state that's the issue. Sometimes the actual process of how we think is the real problem. In this part, we're going to look at 2 really critical habits: that tendency to rely on rushed, fast thinking, and the huge problem of trying to tackle complex issues without any kind of structured mental model. Okay, next up, we have fast thinking. Now, this isn't about having brilliant intuition. This is the noise of just being rushed. It's the danger of grabbing the very first conclusion that pops into your head just because it's easy and it takes the least amount of effort. It feels super efficient in the moment, but it's often dangerously incomplete. And just look at the contrast here. The noisy brain defaults to whatever's easy. The upgraded brain, on the other hand, deliberately slows down. It asks, okay, what are 2 or 3 other ways I could look at this? That deliberate consideration, that's a superpower for clear thinking. Now, this next habit can totally transform how you solve problems. It's the noise from having no mental models. A mental model is really just a framework, like a blueprint for thinking. Without one, when we face a complex problem, our thoughts are just a chaotic, jumbled mess. We have no idea where to even start. But look, the fix can be so simple. Instead of chaos, you just apply a basic structure. Step 1, what's the real problem here, not just the symptom? Step 2, what are all the possible ways to solve it, even the crazy ones? And step 3, okay, which of these solutions has the best trade-offs? This simple model alone can cut through a massive amount of noise. Okay, so we've looked at noise coming from inside our minds and from our thinking process. Now, for our final section, let's talk about how noise gets into our thinking from the outside world, through our inputs and our outputs. And the final two habits that we are quitting are information overload, which is the noise of just way too much data, and the use of complex language, which is the noise of unclear communication. We're all living in an age of information, right? But more is definitely not better. Information overload is the noise of useless data. It's that endless scroll on social media, trying to read everything, that fire hose of low-quality information that just completely drowns out the actual signal you're looking for. This slide right here shows the essential skill we all need to build. A noisy brain is just a passive consumer. It lets everything in. An upgraded brain is an active curator. It doesn't ask, can I consume this? It asks, do I need to consume this? Is this actually essential? It's about being ruthlessly selective. And finally, our seventh habit to quit, complex language. This is the noise that we actually create ourselves. Using big words and confusing jargon, it rarely makes you sound smart. It often just hides a lack of true understanding. You gotta remember, clarity is a sign of mastery, not weakness. When it comes down to it, the goal of the noisy brain is just to sound intelligent. But the goal of the upgraded brain is to be understood. If you can make someone else understand a really complex idea simply, then you're the one who's actually mastered it. So there you have it. By quitting these 7 habits, we can do something pretty remarkable. We can consciously tune out all that static of cognitive noise and finally hear the clear, crisp signal of our own best thinking. And this idea just sums it all up perfectly. Real cognitive clarity isn't about cramming more knowledge into your head. It's about the systemic subtraction of all the noise that's already in there. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with this question. Of these 7 habits we've covered, overconfidence, emotional reactions, defending beliefs, fast thinking, having no models, information overload, and using complex language, which one is creating the most noise in your life right now? What's one small step you can take today to just begin turning down the volume? What noise will you silence first?